listening to Bring Me the Axe. I'm Brian White, one half of this morbid equation, and I'm joined by my co-host and actual brother, Dave White. Hey, Dave, how you doing over there?
No, hello. I'm all right. I think it's officially winter. Did you get a lot of snow today?
Oh, yeah, it snowed like fucking crazy over here.
You know what I hate? I hate winter. I hate snow.
No, I'm into this for like today. Like this is my one day, and then it's going to be a pain in the ass. Like every time I have to go out now, the car will slide a little bit, and then I'll be done with winter. But right now, I'm okay with it.
I'm not. If it was a person, I'd punch it right in the mouth. Hear that snow?
Yeah.
Coming for you.
In your face, snow. So we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores, and the steady diet of utter garbage that those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day. There's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with more about trashy movies than Dave. Just before we get into it, here's a little housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us between the episodes, you can also find us on Instagram at Bring Me the Axe Pod, and Dave's over there at That Queer Wolf. We've also got a sweet website now at bringmetheaxe.com. You can listen to all our past shows there and read the transcripts. And you can also contact us directly at bringmetheaxepod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a movie that you love and would like to hear us give it the business. And lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube now. You can search us by name and subscribe to it if you prefer to consume your podcast that way. And you'd be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So come on and do it.
It doesn't take anything. You just push a button.
You push a
That's
button.
all you got to do.
You push a button, and then it'll say like how many stars, and you'll say 5 stars because I like them just that much. They really do make it easy. I used to think it was a whole process, like you had to write a review and stuff. But like if you do write a review, that's fucking awesome because it goes a little bit further. But you don't have to. You just push the 5-star thing. And it helps us out a lot. And if you listen on YouTube, you'd do us a favor, give the episode a like and leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys.
On YouTube.
On the YouTubery. So we just want to get all that out of the way right at the top of the show. Because I'm about to give you a little taste of what we're doing tonight.
Tell me, will it be sweet, or is it, or do I feel, or do you even?
On the one night they were celebrating New Year's Eve, he was out, ending their life.
I'm going to commit murder at midnight. Call me evil.
Every New Year's Eve, the caller came out.
Please. I'll do anything you want. We can even get it on if you want to. I won't make any kind of...
I don't like that. I don't like that.
One terrifying night of unspeakable evil. New Year's Evil.
That's it. New Year's Evil.
Down. You ever play that game, Twisted Metal?
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of the song from Twisted Metal. And I don't know if it actually sounds anything like it. It just reminds me of it.
I cannot remember the last time I played Twisted Metal. Probably in the 90s. But yeah.
I have a lot of questions about this movie. I have so many questions about this movie.
I got a lot of questions too. Man.
I laughed a lot. I know that.
Yeah. Like it's about as silly as they come. And there's a couple of points to it that I really actually kind of appreciate because I don't think I've ever seen a slasher movie done quite this way. We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, let's here's some facts. So this was made in 1980. And so
Ish. That was made in 1980, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually in the true canon style, I guarantee, like a lot of movies that we do, they'll say like they were released in 1982, but it was actually made in 1981. You know, it's just the production process. But canon moves like it's on fire,
Yeah,
and
it
like
was like 3 weeks later.
yeah. So like Breakin' and Breakin' 2 were both produced and released in 1984, like months apart from each other, entire productions. That's
What was what's the one we watched there for 99¢? It was Bronx Warriors. They recorded all 3 of those movies within
in
6
months. Yeah. That's crazy. Because yeah, like this one of the things I saw is this had a 3-week shooting schedule.
Yeah.
And your average Hollywood production ranges from 8 to 12 weeks. So holy shit, man. And that's 3 weeks, I guess, is kind of standard for like low budget stuff, but still, that's a fast production.
Yeah, I think that's like TV movies are usually like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
For just the shooting schedule, not the whole turnaround. But
Yeah. Yeah. So some other movies released in that year. We've got
all of them. All of the slasher movies.
Yeah. We got Dario Argento's Inferno. The Ninth Configuration came out that year as well, which I'm not sure if I'd call that a horror movie, but it's got horror bits and pieces. Motel Hell came out that year. I watched that one the other night.
I don't think I've seen that in, I don't know, 15 years. Probably.
I think the last time I saw it was on whatever Joe Bob Briggs was doing for TNT, like in a million years ago. Let's see. We also had Maniac, which we cover way back in episode number 4. So do check that one out. Also 1980, The Watcher in the Woods, which we covered. We covered not that long ago with Terry Gamble. So go back, listen to those two. They're pretty entertaining, and I tell a really.
But don't watch Watcher in the Woods.
Don't watch Watcher.
You just listen to the thing. You'll get the gist of it.
The end result of listening to us talk about it is about the same as watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, listen to the Maniac episode for a really fucking crazy story about the time I met Tom Savini. Cast and crew for this movie. The director is a character named Emmett Alston.
A lot of ninja movies.
Yes.
Under this guy's belt.
He was a utility director for Canon. And apart from this one, his resume is remarkably limited, but he did direct a bunch of those cheap action movies in the jungle during America's like really, really troubling love-in period with the Marcos Philippines. And also during Canon's Ninja Fever period. And among them,
what is that? That's like early 80s, right?
Mid 80s, so 85.
So that's when we're still like that is when people are finally starting to confront not the consequences, but like Vietnam, like the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
it's like I think it's like 4 years out from the memorial, the wall being built. And that was a huge fucking deal because people thought that was kind of a slight against veterans. And so all that shit is followed by these like kind of valorizing movies that are real gross and yet still somehow kind of fun to watch. Rambo.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And a shitload of them were shot. There's a movie. I think the director's name is Mark Hartley. He did that not quite Hollywood documentary about Australia's exploitation industry. He followed that one up with a documentary called Machete Maidens Unleashed, and it's all about that period, those movies, and the sort of the politics around that. And it's fucking horrifying because of what was actually happening in the Philippines at the time. It's nuts. And so yeah, this guy made a bunch of them over there, including 9 Deaths of the Ninja, which he did with Sho Kosugi. And it's a fucking crazy movie. Like I remember when
he also made Force of the Ninja. Little Ninjas.
Yep.
It's very ninja centric.
Very ninja centric. Oh yeah. Like that was a period where Canon couldn't make enough ninja movies. They just could not make enough ninja movies. Oh man. So yeah.
Ninjas were really, really hot in the 80s. People loved ninjas.
85, 86, ninjas were fucking everywhere.
And then you pair them with lovable turtles.
Yeah.
And you get
a little radioactive ooze on them, and then you get a whole phenomenon.
I love it.
Can't complain. No complaints. So let's see. Cast. Key among this cast is Roz Kelly, who plays
Pinky Tuscadero.
Pinky Tuscadero on Happy Days. And if you go to her Wikipedia, as I did, and you look up her personal life section, it's just a list of all the times she's done something insane and or criminal.
Yikes.
tough life there, Pinky Tuscadero.
Yeah, one gets the impression things did not really work out so great for Pinky Tuscadero.
So here's the thing.
Which is very sad.
Here's the thing. I remember in the 90s, there was a punk band called Tuscadero. Everybody talks about her. When they talk about her, they talk about Happy Days.
She's only on 3 episodes.
She's on 3 episodes. They must have been fucking awesome episodes.
Well, her sister on the show was played by Susie Quattro, and Susie Quattro is real fucking cool.
Yeah. She was Leather Tuscadero.
Now, the weird thing, though, about... So, here's my question for you. We've all seen Happy Days a million times. Mm-hmm. How old is Fonzie supposed to be? I was thinking about that today.
I have no idea. I think...
Because I assumed he was kind of a high school student like them. I don't know if he went to high school with them, but he's like a couple years older, maybe?
Yeah, so I think, if anything, he's probably like 20. Maybe.
So this movie is like, I don't know, a few years after Happy Days, after she's on Happy Days.
Yeah.
She is like a 55-year-old divorcee.
I know.
How does she go from playing a 20-year-old? And I think there is some weird age discrepancy stuff, like with her kid and all that, but she does not look like she's in her 20s. And that's the early 80s, kind of like, you're like an early 80s 30. Which means that you look like you're 52.
It's the consequence of cocaine and 2 packs a day smoking habit. Just ages the shit out of you. But that's that thing about the age discrepancy is something that really fucking threw me, because there is a moment in the movie where it does the big reveal, and I'm like, that guy is her husband? He's like the same age as her son.
Yeah.
So yeah. So speaking of her husband, we got Kip Niven, who was a TV guy who did some disaster movies for Universal. And he seems to be having a really, really good time in the role of the killer in this movie.
I only remember him from Magnum Force. Because he's one of the killers in that.
Because that's, he doesn't have a lot of central key roles, and that's one of them. He's even in I think he's...
And that's an early one, because that's what, 74?
Yeah. I believe that's the sequel to Dirty Harry, the first one, right? Yeah. So, but he's always bit parts. He did a ton of TV. I believe he's still working.
Yeah, everybody in this movie is you just look at their IMDb. It's like television. Every fucking show from the 70s and 80s, they're in it. 1 episode,
2 episodes, 3 episodes. It's pretty good. What is it? The woman who plays the nurse, Taffy O'Connell, I believe is her name. She was on a show that I did not even know existed called Enos, which was an attempted spin-off of the Dukes of Hazzard. I believe it lasted about 3 episodes, and she's in all of them.
Good God.
Yep. So rounding out the cast here is Grant Kramer, who is better known for his lead role.
As Mike.
Yep, in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. He also has a small part in John Russo's weird Night of the Living Dead special edition, which I'd completely forgotten about until I looked him up. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. That thing exists. Do you remember this at all?
Vaguely, because I was reading about it not too long ago.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of weird shit that came out around, because that came out at an anniversary, right?
1999 is when it came out. And it came out when everybody was all of a sudden doing special editions because of what Lucas did for Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So they did that with Night of the Living Dead, and they did this whole, they inserted this entire new scene that they shot. That's, I believe it's the funeral for Bill Hinsman's zombie at the very beginning of the movie. And
why would you shoot an insert scene?
No fucking idea.
45 years later.
No idea. Also, Hinsman somehow looks exactly the same in that movie as he did in fucking 1968.
Because I think he looks old. They make him look old.
Yeah.
Because he's in some other shit that's a couple years later.
Yeah.
Or 10 or so years later. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think they were just let's just keep making him look like that. And it just so happened that he started out looking old. So by the time he's 70, he just looks like that guy still.
Yeah, man. Night of the Living Dead got some real abuse around that period, because I believe they also made I think it's not a sequel. I believe it's a remake with Sid Haig that's in 3D.
It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, no, thank you. Don't need it. So here are some taglines for this movie. Don't dare make any New Year's resolutions unless you plan to live. I plan to live.
It's grammatically clunky.
Yeah, it is. Also, a celebration of the macabre.
That one's terrible.
Yeah. Those are both on the same poster, like the original theatrical poster. And then this one
you can't have two taglines.
I know. Well, the celebration of the macabre is at the bottom. It's very small. And then this one is the one that appeared on the video. This is this New Year's. You're invited to a killer party.
No, I can get behind that one.
I like that one. I like that one. It's pretty good. So, like I said, 3-week shooting schedule. This one was actually released in time for New Year's Eve in 1980.
That was on purpose.
Oh, I'm sure.
This was because this comes out and this is peak golden age slasher. It's over they've reached the point of oversaturation, and there were basically two movies that were kind of scheduled to come out. I think it was a little bit before that. It was this and Slumber Party Massacre. And Roger Corman had the foresight to be like, no, fuck that. I'm not putting out a movie when everybody else is putting out movies. No one's going to go see this. So he held it. And I think this one, they opted to be like, all right, let's push it as far back as we can go. And hopefully we can pick up that period where nothing comes out.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get some audience that way. Now it didn't really work because this movie was a giant failure, but it speaks to just how oversaturated everything was.
Yeah.
That is a very short window of time. That's 3 years basically.
Yeah. Yes. So it's 80 to 80 to 82. So yeah, 3 years.
Yeah. And that's fucking insane to be there were just too many of them. And everybody knew it too. They were like, well, what the fuck are we going to do?
Not make money?
I think this movie, I think, is a very good example of what happens when you don't follow the template for those movies. Because, most of the slasher movies, they're inciting incident, period of time elapses, people start dying because of inciting incident.
Yeah.
That's the formula. This one, they were just nah, you know what? We don't need that.
Right. So
we have our own ideas. And I will say your own ideas do not make any sense.
Canon is not really known for horror movies, right? So they've got all the Chuck Norris ones. They've got all the Charles Bronson. They were really an action movie house.
And you should also point out that this is second wave canon because canon has not always been
right.
canon.
No. This is Golan Globus canon. So this is real early in that sort of phase of them. I believe their first big movie was The Apple, which is a musical.
I think that predates when they bought canon. I think because Menachem Golan directed that.
Yes.
And I think because of that, because that had some weird success. That is a very strange movie.
Yes, it is. We'll eventually we'll get around to that one on 99 Cent.
And so I think based on that, they were like, we can, because they used Roger Corman's, pre-sell international rights strategy to just crank shit out. It doesn't matter how cheap and terrible it is because you've already made your money back. It doesn't fucking matter what anybody thinks of it. And so I think it's right after The Apple that they take over and they turn it into whatever it becomes throughout the 80s. And I think the first one was Death Wish 2.
You're right.
That was their first big success.
Yeah. So we will probably get into Canon Group proper on 99 Cent Rental. There's, again, I mentioned Mark Hartley again. He has a documentary called Electric Boogaloo. I believe it's called The Wild Untold Story of Canon films. And it's not a terribly flattering portrait of it. Steve Railsback is in it. Fucking hates everything he did with them.
Everybody at best, and I've seen that documentary. I can't really remember it very well, but at best, people are like, well, they were very efficient businessmen.
Yeah.
And it's that's the nicest thing you can say about them.
Yeah.
Most people don't go so far as Railsback to really rag on them, but most people are just they were very stern men.
Yeah. They did not participate in the Electric Boogaloo documentary. They instead opted to produce their own, which is a much more fawning nostalgia love fest. I've not seen it. I'm not terribly interested in it.
I have seen pieces of it. I've never watched the whole thing. It's a little bit hard to take. I mean, it's egomaniacal men basically championing their shitty work. But it's so bizarre to me that anybody could watch these movies and be like, this is art. This shit is just the pinnacle. It's they were putting out the trashiest movies.
Oh yeah,
now,
they're
really fun.
They're fun. I love so many of them, but I also am very aware that they are sexist, extremely homophobic, extremely racist.
Oh yeah, and like just misogyny through and through.
Yeah,
I mean that's just kind of the 80s in general, but
right. But these guys, they were really kind of in the zone when they were killing women in their movies. But yeah, to the point of what you said about this being kind of like not your average slasher movie, and the way that they seem to sort of miss the point in a weird way, and they land somewhere that's truly canon.
Yeah.
In that this is
because it has a very international feeling to it. There are moments where it feels very like giallo.
Yes.
I mean, even that fucking mask, it's like shades of deep red. Like
yes, and the fact that one of the primary weapons is a switchblade.
Yep.
You know, they got to give him a stiletto.
The switchblade, the fucking voice on the phone.
Yep. But also the following year, I guess they just couldn't figure out the slasher thing, because somehow they managed to not completely fucking make bank on this movie.
That's what I'm saying, because they didn't bother with the fucking formula. Because if you go off, unless you are a very good director with a very clear vision, John Carpenter, you do not fucking deviate from the script.
Yeah.
And the script is inciting incident, time lapse, start killing people connected with whatever incident was.
Right, because the following year, they're going to release another slasher movie that we're doing next month.
Oh,
that
boy. It is even weirder. It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen.
It's equally as just divorced from reality and like psychedelic and strange. But where this one, I find this movie to be entertaining and kind of and really silly. That one, it's called X-Ray, by the way, and
it is on Tubi. Please, everybody, go watch it. It is a mind bender of a film.
Pro tip: X-Ray when you search for it on Tubi, because otherwise it won't show up.
Or you could buy it.
Yes,
I personally own a copy of it.
So yeah, you know what? I don't want to blow it because we'll talk about it when we get there. But we both watched it twice within 24 hours.
Yeah, because I think I started it, and within 20 minutes texted you and said you have to watch this movie. And the next day I was hanging out with a friend of mine. I was like, we have to watch this movie. It is bonkers.
Yeah, because I was watching Deathstalker that night, and I texted you. I was like, this movie's wicked short. I need something else.
Have terrible taste.
It's like, this movie is like already over. I need something else to watch. And you were like, listen, I've got this one on right now that you will not believe.
It is. Because it doesn't make any sense. This one is confusing. X-Ray doesn't make any sense.
No, so canon eventually does get in on horror movies a little ways deeper into the 80s, but they do it right, sort of. But they do it.
They kind of go with like the teen movies. Like,
right.
Do they do The Gate? Isn't that them?
No. What they did was they hired people who knew how to make horror movies. They hired Tobe Hooper.
Right, Life Force.
Yeah, and so you get
Invaders from Mars too.
And Invaders from Mars and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 you get.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so they eventually do kind of figure it out, but they figure it out by just hiring the right people. And also that point when they made those movies, they were flying crazy high and were able to just do whatever the fuck they wanted. Like that was around the time when they put stuff into production like Invasion USA and the Delta Force, which are ridiculous fucking movies, but they are way better than they have any right to be. It's nuts. So,
we should probably also mention that this movie was written by a man who, when he wrote this, was 65 years old.
Yes, you definitely
and you will feel that through and through.
You definitely get a certain "how do you do, fellow kids," while also getting while also getting a certain "get off my lawn" kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. So also, this was not the only New Year's Eve movie made in 1980. The other was Terror Train.
Yeah, Terror Train's the same year. That movie, I would say, is quite a bit better than this one. And
yes.
And that's saying a lot because that movie's not very good. This one's a lot more fun.
This one's a lot more fun than that one. But that one is objectively a much better movie. Yeah. So shall we get into it?
I want to just let you. This is going to come as no surprise to you. This movie was not well received by the critics.
Oh, good.
Out in the world. Let's see. I'm going to hit you with some quotes here. This is the LA Times. Even though New Year's Evil was released very early this month, the film will surely be one of the top contenders for one of the worst films of 1981.
Shut up.
Yep. Let's see. It's my boy Roger Ebert. New Year's Evil is not a good movie or even a very good thriller. It's just barely competent. Well, that's pretty good.
Okay, that's not as bad as I was expecting.
And Chicago Tribune, this one is my favorite. This one is particularly rough with all manner of mutilations. No stars. Like it actually says no stars.
Oh God, that's a little ridiculous. Oh boy.
I feel like a lot of the times, and we'll keep going with this theme, but like I feel like they just saw a horror movie and we're like, well, this is going to be garbage.
I was going to say that. I guarantee that the paper is like, okay, you're going to go and see this movie and this movie this week and you're going to write it up. And they were like, one of them's a fucking horror movie. Come on. And so like they sat through it. They probably took it in and just immediately forgot everything and just wrote whatever kind of scathing bullshit they could. Because I mean, it is not a good movie in the conventional sense, but it has its charms.
I mean, but the stigma around horror is so, especially at this time. And I get it. Like these movies, and we talked about this with Halloween, we talked about this with Black Christmas. If you are of a certain age or a certain generation and you're accustomed to horror being a certain kind of thing, it's monsters or it's aliens or giant bugs or whatever the fuck it is, if anything prior to 1980, essentially. When you get to this, I can see why you'd think this was kind of tasteless because a lot of it is very tasteless.
Oh yeah,
this is very crass.
This one is in fact tasteless.
Yeah, but to not be able to recognize that it's the same as giant bugs or monsters from outer space, it's the same shit. Like it's the same schlocky bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just for a different generation. Like I watch a lot because people are like, you don't watch enough modern movies. Well, I actually do watch a lot of them. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
But when I watch them, I very easily understand this is not made for me. Five Nights at Freddy was not a movie that was made for a middle-aged man.
Right. Yeah.
And so I watch it with that in mind. So I can come away with it being like, well, it was all right. It was kind of fun. It was very bad. And it was clearly not for me, the audience. But it's so weird that they would be like, these garbage movies, blah, 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 blah. It's like, did you walk out halfway through?
Yeah.
Like you can't even recognize that like, it's the same thing. It's just about having fun. It's just a different way of presenting fun.
Yeah.
And granted, some of the shit that ends up in these movies is kind of gross and awful. But I still think to constantly be like, well, here's another shitty horror movie. Like, God damn it. It's your fucking job. Grow up.
I know. Way to be a reviewer, an objective film critique.
And that is my rant against 1980s film critics.
So, yeah. So the movie opens on the luxurious Holiday Inn somewhere among the Los Angeles skyline. Now,
rough hotel.
It is. Yeah. When they come back to it a little bit later on, I was like, wait a second. Are they shooting this TV show at the Holiday Inn?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So Ernie, who is the anxious manager to Diane, is giving Diane a hard time about being late for, as we soon learn, the new wave music television broadcast of the year.
And then she says, drop a lewd and relax, Ernie. Which I love that line. Drop a load and relax. I'm going to say that to people now.
My note says drop a load and relax. That's what I heard her say.
Well, I think either one fits, I guess. Though I would not recommend saying that. You know what? I'm going to recommend not saying either one to people. Because they'll either be disgusted or confused.
God, what the fuck did Quaaludes even do?
They are a sedative. Or a sedative, I guess.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. All I know is they stopped making them and they just were like everybody's favorite drug.
Yeah, because they were like insanely addictive.
Yeah, until the world's supply like literally ran out. And like then you don't hear about them. I think the last time you heard about them was David Bowie was singing about them.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So there's a woman also like nervously applying the heaviest coat of makeup I've ever seen outside of a drag show. Diane, soon to be known as Blaze. She looks like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
She really does. And it does not do her any favors because, look, I do not like to comment on women's appearances, but they make her look so old in this.
It's weird. It is definitely weird. The costuming is also not terribly complimentary.
Like she looks like someone's mom dressed up as a punk rocker for Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is just... where's one? I have a great note that I said, oh, all the punks in this, they all look like the Damned by way of JCPenney.
Yeah, because there's that one guy who looks like Dave Vanian, but like he bought a Dave Vanian costume at Spirit Halloween.
And then like they've got Blaze like with this ridiculous hair that is a lot more like Motley Crue than anything else. But she looks like Joan Collins in like S&M getup. Like it's just this really bizarre look. Like, why are you making her look like that? She does not look young or hip, and she doesn't look into any of this. Like it's just such the punk rock angle of this.
It's suspect.
So strange.
We're gonna get there because it plays it looms largely over this, and for a movie shot in Hollywood at the fucking peak of like the Hollywood punk experience. Like,
yeah, throw Darby Crash in there. Give him a cameo. Like,
I know,
anything for authenticity. Because they missed the mark so widely.
They could have got TSOL. They could have got DI. They could have got fucking the Germs. But like
the Vandals will be in anything.
So So now we see that Diane calls Yvonne, who does God knows what for her, and wants to know if she's heard from Richard, who is
what she does for her? She is the stereotype.
Yes. Yeah. Richard, who is probably drunk and won't be making it to the show tonight. We got to remember Richard. So while Yvonne is getting ready for the big show, she's distracted not once, but twice by the dripping of the bathtub in the hotel room.
And she seems real put out by like having to turn the faucet.
Yeah. Yeah,
like the second time around, she's just like, "Oh my god!"
It's
like,
literally.
Listen,
Yvonne. It's right fucking next to you. Just reach in there and turn it off. So yeah, while she's distracted,
but she doesn't. So with the first time she does it, she reaches in, but she puts kind of her whole body in, like a real lean in. So she is kind of in the shower, and I think that is significant for what I'm going to say in a minute.
Yeah, because someone is like lets themselves into her room and then attacks her with a stiletto.
In the shower. She never leaves the bathroom.
No.
How does this killer get into the room, into the bathroom where she is, into the shower where she just was leaning into without her seeing any of it?
Oh my God, that's right. No. She does leave the bathroom very briefly. But still, like the logic of the scene, like kind of understanding the layout of the room, like this person had to be the sneakiest killer in the entire world.
And this is like every hotel you've like. If you're not a wealthy person, this is every hotel you've ever been in. Like, this is the Radisson at the airport. Like they are not shooting for fancy here.
No, it's like I said, it is the luxurious Holiday Inn. Glitzy. Hollywood center of like the American pop culture fantasy, and like there's like beautiful hotels all up and down that place. No, we get the Holiday Inn.
And you could have just faked it. You didn't have to actually book the hotel.
I know. No, you see the actual fucking name on the building. It's like, man, is this product placement? Did they pay for this? Who knows? But yeah, also she's got beads in her hair like Olivia from Sesame Street.
And I mean, lots of like
every time she moves, it's a very noisy thing.
It is like when Dave Chappelle did his Rick James impression. He was like that kind of beads where it is like just over the top. Like I feel like whoever was doing hair in this movie maybe was a little bit racist.
Yeah, it was the style at the time. Mm-hmm. So we cut to the theme song as the credits roll, and a classic car with the ragtop down drives down Hollywood Boulevard, overflowing with heavily made up punks.
Yeah, these are the punks from Return of the Living Dead, basically.
Yes, it makes
just in a slightly nicer car.
So this scene actually makes me wonder if this was a thing that used to happen with people like cruising the boulevard, because you see it in a lot of movies at the period. It's in.
I think people did they did kind of cruise the Hollywood Boulevard, but the way that punks are portrayed, and I am a big fan of LA punk rock, particularly of this era. My understanding of that time in LA punk is like they all just kind of sat around like reading Voltaire and shoplifting from thrift stores. Like nobody's out like sniffing glue and like holding knives up to ladies' throats. Like, what is this portrayal? Because it feels very much like a 65-year-old man wrote it.
Yeah. Like the only thing he knows is 2 years before the Sex Pistols came to America and fucked shit up. And like, that's all anybody really knows about punk rock.
It's like, I watched a couple weeks ago, that David Cronenberg movie, Existence.
Yeah.
And it is a movie, if people are not familiar, it is a movie kind of about virtual reality. It was made right around the time of like moral panic about video games becoming more immersive, becoming a lot more violent, and their effect on society. And I'm watching the whole movie. I'm like, what is it about this movie that is not clicking for me? Because I'm not a big fan of David Cronenberg's later stuff, but it just feels so off. And I was like, this feels like it was written by a man who doesn't know much about video games, but is still going ahead to write a movie about video games. It's like, this feels so inauthentic and weird and judgy.
Yeah.
And that is what this portrayal of punks feels like to me. It's like, first of all, you are just off in every possible way. It is also judgmental as fuck.
Yeah. This particular image of the punks in the ragtop classic car, though, is so fucking ubiquitous at the time. And it's like, it makes me wonder if it's the product of something that somebody saw, because you see it in this, you see it in Return of the Living Dead, you see it in Savage Streets.
I imagine it was probably just a lot of younger people that would do it. Like, you remember, like, we grew up in New Hampshire, and you go to like Hampton Beach. That's where everyone would go on the weekends or weeknight or whatever in the summer. And it's just people going around and around and around and just kind of hanging out of their cars and being kind of boisterous. But that's kind of where it starts and stops. And I think if you're not young and you just kind of look at that, it's like, oh, they're all one thing to me. They're all punks out there just, harassing people.
Yeah.
And so my guess is like this, if this was a thing, I don't know. I did not grow up in California, but if it was, that people would kind of just cruise the boulevard or cruise the strip, as it were.
Well, the Beach Boys made a whole career out of it.
Yeah. Like, you just sort of like, if you were an older person, you'd just be like, look at all these young punks out here. Like, they're all just kind of the same person to you.
Right.
Even though they are decidedly different, socioeconomic groups.
Yeah. And
not to mention subcultures.
These punks are the most aggressive punks I've ever seen. They're like spitting at the cars next to them, like shouting and fucking flipping everybody up, throwing shit at people.
What Johnny Rotten portrayed himself as in the press.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, one point, there's like a guy in an adjacent car that's like yelled, screaming at him, flipping him off. There's like a van with the side door open, some chick flashing her boobs at him. It's absolutely nuts. But
that feels real Hampton Beach to me.
Oh, yeah. Remember, I was in the 90s, they'd Whip 'em Out Wednesday because of, what the fuck was that radio station to play all the rock? But yeah.
God damn it, man.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that was the summer that I worked down there.
Look, men are the fucking worst.
But yeah. So, but while this is playing, the theme song is playing. And the theme song is meant to be, and it was by design in the script. It was supposed to be a punk rock song. It is not that. It is in the trailer that we just played. It does not sound punk at all. It is
twisted metal.
It sounds to me like the band Pentagram.
Yes.
Or like any of the sort of like modern like stoner or occult rock bands. Like, it sounds like that. Like, it's really fuzzy and a little psychedelic.
Who was the one? What are the ones that did magic on stage that had like a magician in the band? Who was that?
Sorcerer.
Yes, it's like that. It is 100% that. I was like, this is at best, this band is like a fucking Slade cover band.
Yeah. Oh man, because so they're a band. They're actually a band. It's a real band, and they appear in the movie.
Yeah, both of the bands in this are real.
Yeah, they're called Shadow, and they look like they were a glitter rock band that was called upon to be a punk band.
So this is why I'm wondering, because this is kind of around the same time I guess glam metal is kind of starting to pick up in Hollywood. You're getting bands like Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just go with that? Because that is clearly what this is. Like, that would have fit so much better.
Oh, I know. That's the thing, is the fact that they imported a band. This band Shadow is actually from Seattle, but fucking the Hollywood Boulevard like rock scene at the time was alive with like a million fucking different styles. Like,
if anybody is wondering why we are stuck on this, you can probably guess what we grew up listening to.
Yeah. But like, I mean, I've heard Vince Neil talk about Hollywood at this period, and it's like,
it just feels like a better fit. Like, the whole thing feels like a better fit because the punk piece of this is so uncomfortable and nobody seems to know what to do with it through the whole fucking movie.
Yeah. So let's get past this. We're obviously a little worked up. So yeah, these loathsome punks arrive at the luxurious Holiday Inn,
where a police officer is taking tickets.
Yes, they are accosted to the front door by the most nervous.
Defund the police, am I right?
A cab. So yeah, he is the most nervous, most Midwestern cop I've ever seen who demands their tickets. And the way that he's like, tickets. I
He has kind of a carnival barker, but like really uncomfortable with what he's doing.
Yeah, I need your tickets. And
meanwhile, Dave Vanian steps up to him.
I know, they must have just slapped a police uniform on the craft services guy and said, like, here, say this. And so yeah, and then this punk is kind of like,
who is very gay, this guy.
Super gay. Like, yeah, when he does
and
speak.
like finally I was like, that feels like authentic LA punk.
Yeah, this guy's definitely out of his element. Lead punk guy produces what appears to be a switchblade, but it's actually one of those combs. And so
real cool stuff.
Yeah. Up in Diane's room, and we're gonna keep seeing those punks like a bunch, because there's also another one who's got this kind of like baby blue hairdo thing, and he's really into Blaze, and they keep showing him every time she's on stage.
Look, they had $600,000 for this movie. Yeah. They are getting their fucking money's worth out of every single one of those people.
Yeah. So up in Diane's room, her son Derek arrives with flowers, and she's not terribly interested in him.
No, I'm gonna tell you this. Pinky Tuscadero is not a good mom.
No, this is a major plot point that is going to pay off in the end. We find out that he's got some part in a TV show called Space.
Well, first he gives her the bouquet of roses and then kisses her on the mouth.
Yep.
My note just says gross.
Yeah, there's no other word for that. That's not appropriate.
Fuck?
What is that? Yeah. So he's got a part in a TV. He landed a part in a TV show called Spaceship America or something like that. And Diane couldn't care less.
No, she's got a fucking big rock and roll show to do, I guess.
New age rock and roll show to do.
I still don't understand who Blaze is. Is she a DJ?
No, she's the host of Hollywood Hotline,
which is a call-in show for punk music.
For new wave music.
Okay.
Get it right.
That's another thing that we conflate these things a lot in the sort of wider public imaginary, where it's like, punk bands like Blondie. Like, no, they weren't a punk band.
Yeah.
All of these things are like new wave and punk. They're not the same thing.
When people talk about CBGB 1977, punk bands like Television and the Talking Heads.
Yeah, it's like, soul music like Tupac.
Yeah, so down at the show, this is Hollywood Hotline. We learn that Diane is known as Blaze. They're going to count down the year's most popular new wave rock music. She addresses the crowd. Hi, babies. It's time to slam down and get even.
This is all the enthusiasm. I'm like a dinner show drag queen. She says it's time to spin out and get even. It's time to boil your hair.
Boil your hair.
The fuck does that mean? That's another one I'm going to start using. Hey man, don't boil your hair, okay?
Yeah. Hey, drop a load.
Oh no.
It's going on our merch.
This is getting I don't think I can wear anything that says that.
Yeah. So she's also taking calls for votes on the best song.
But she's just so everything is so I don't know if she's trying to be real kind of uninterested in the whole thing. It's real cool to be uninterested.
Yeah, it's that punk rock ennui, you know who her manner actually reminds me of more than anything is Ruth Roman in The Baby. Like the way that she kind of carries herself is this kind of no nonsense tough chick.
She does. My note says Joan Crawford on K-Rock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
it's very just hey everybody, do you want to listen to some music or what?
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Why aren't you excited about this?
Yeah. Shut up and boil your hair, right? So
hey man. Look, don't boil your hair over it, all right? It's not that big a deal.
Hey, everybody, don't have a cow, right? Cowabunga.
Oh, God. 65 years old.
The first caller wants to hear "We Don't Need No Education," which is not the name of that song. It's not the name of that song, but we're gonna go with it. We're just going with it.
Oh, you mean that hot new wave song?
Yeah, by the latest in new wave punk rock music, Pink Floyd.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So everything's going great until
she's just like, it's New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah. So then she gets a call from a dude who's using some unknown device to like disguise his voice. And he sounds like a cross between Winslow Leach from Phantom of the Paradise. And
because she makes a comment. She calls him the Phantom.
She calls him the Phantom.
Is that what she's referring to? Phantom of the Paradise?
Maybe
he does sort of sound like that. Did you learn why that he sounds this way?
No. Well, he does that just to disguise his voice.
Well, no, originally they had like an actual voice, like the thing when people would have like tracheotomies or they would have like part of their like the throat removed, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's that thing that you like put to your throat,
right?
And it makes the vibration. It sort of like translates it for you. It didn't work though in the movie, so they were like, "What the fuck are we gonna do?" And he's like, "Don't worry, I got this." And he just does it with his voice, and they were like, "I guess good enough."
Yeah, but they give him a little device that looks like
a kazoo.
Peter Frampton used it on Frampton Comes
the
Alive.
vocoder.
Yeah, it's a thing that you had
Roger
Troutman and Zapp. What it actually is the device that vibrates, sends vibrations into your mouth, and then
they don't make them anymore because it caused brain damage.
Causes brain damage. Yeah, Roger Troutman from Zapp built an entire fucking career on it. But it's a fucking awesome device. But
it
but also
work, so he just does it with his own voice because they were like, "Well, we got to keep going."
I love it. I love when he talks because he's like, "I'm evil."
Oh, it's so bizarre. Like even the threatening phone call is just so boring. Like, today, buddy.
Yeah, my other comment was he also sounds like the Donald Duck caller from New York Ripper.
Yes, that's what I mean. Is like there's these weird kind of allusions and like nods to either just like Italian horror or giallo, because they're not the same thing, everybody. And like just like that, the New York Ripper thing, because that's the same year, isn't it?
New York Ripper, I think I believe it's 81 or 82.
That movie's gross.
yeah. I wrote about that one a little ways back. That one is pretty
awesome
upsetting.
Soundtrack.
Fucking fantastic. So he introduces himself as evil and he pledges to kill someone at midnight. Someone she knows. But here's the thing. He already killed her.
Yeah, he's already killed somebody. This is where their whole fucking thing it gets derailed before it even starts. Because it's like he has this very murky strategy for murdering people. And a motive we'll kind of get to at the end a little bit.
Now, I got a thing about it because this is one thing about the movie that I do genuinely like. And I don't think that I've actually seen it anywhere else because they don't mask him. He puts a mask on towards the end, but his identity.
I have a big issue with that, actually. The fact that they show you his face.
It's weird, right?
Because this is something that people seem to love about. What was that other one that everyone was all up in arms about that we did with Radish?
Oh, Final Exam.
Yeah. So in that one, they show you the guy's face immediately. And the killer is fucking nobody. It doesn't matter who he is. You've never seen him before. Now, in Halloween, Michael Myers' nobodiness is a part of the story. It's what makes him scary. It's that he is no one. He could be anyone. That's the whole point, is that he's kind of a faceless evil that blows into town, kills everybody, and fucking leaves. That's the thing that makes him scary. That fucking guy in Final Exam, I don't know who he is. They don't act like we're supposed to know who he is, so it doesn't fucking matter who he is. Like, it's just like, it's kind of dumb. Like, you either have to make it a part of the character, make it a part of the story, or don't do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, why do I give a shit?
Yeah. But again, that's the detail in this that is really more like a giallo than anything else, because it turns out there's a fucking Byzantine plot at the end of it, and there's a whole thing.
That's like real dumb, because we get to the end and I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, but the thing that I do like about it is they show you his face, they give him a personality, they just dangle that out there for the whole thing, and then at the end they do this thing that we're going to get to that I was like, oh, okay, I've never seen that before. I can get down with it. So
I don't think we're going to have the same opinion about the end of this movie.
No. So now back at Hollywood Hotline. Blaze.
Meanwhile, back at our punk club.
Yeah, Blaze introduces
the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, she introduces the band Shadow, who are the band that actually plays New Year's Evil, and the audience slam dances to this jam.
The singer has a leather half shirt on. He looks real cool.
Yep. And now elsewhere,
that's cool with a K. And everyone's moving so slowly. Like the audience is like so lethargic.
Yeah, you know what they saw is somebody saw Punk Rock the movie and was like, "Oh, that's slam dancing. Okay, so that's how we'll have everybody in our audience do the thing where they're like just jumping up and down and like bouncing into each other and strangling each other."
But it kind of looks like everyone's just sort of like in a wave pool. Like everyone's just kind of bumping into each other a little bit.
Yeah, and it's
real sluggish.
It's gonna get even worse in a minute. But
oh yeah.
Elsewhere, our caller, Evil, gears up and sneaks into a mental hospital, which is also
mental hospital. This shit is offensive.
Super, super offensive, which is also watching the Hollywood Hotline broadcast for some reason.
Yeah, they're mentally ill. They're not animals.
Everybody just loves new wave music.
It's like that. Yeah, you remember that Cramps live performance?
That's in my notes is when the Cramps performed at a mental hospital. You can get bootlegs of it. I believe it's also on YouTube. It's
very insensitive.
It's a pretty good performance, though.
It is. That's a peak Cramps.
Yeah. So Evil emerges dressed as a doctor.
These people suck at doing their jobs.
Oh yeah, they're like, "Oh hey, who are you?" And he's like, "I'm the new guy. Sorry, I'm late."
Yeah, I actually have a note that says, "I hope these nurses get killed first."
Well, Nurse Taffy's going to get it pretty bad.
Yeah, I have a second note that says, "Good news. It looks like they do." And he shows up and he says, "I'm temporary help." Now listen. Temporary help in a psychiatric hospital is not a thing.
Well, when I worked there, we had a lot of temporary help.
I mean, you have people that don't work there for very long, but you don't like call someone from another hospital to come on down.
Oh yeah, that was definitely not something that happened. Like nobody came down from fucking the state hospital to work at us. They just sent us all their patients. So he immediately launches, he runs into this nurse, Nurse Taffy, and he immediately launches into a flirt sesh. He's got a radio for some reason.
He has got a ghetto blaster. That is a boom box.
Oh yeah, 12D batteries at least.
Yeah. He brought his own music. And
champagne. And so
and then they start getting drunk and dancing like you do at work.
Yep. So yeah, this is an actress named Taffy O'Connell, and she also is on the same episodes as Pinky Tuscadero.
Mm-hmm. She was because they were friends.
They were rivals, apparently.
No, in real life.
In real life they were, yeah. But like they pitched us. Apparently, this Pinky character was such a fucking big deal that they immediately like went to spin off to another show about.
And
her.
I don't get it because she kind of sucked. Susie Quattro was cool as shit.
Yeah, she
should have had her own fucking show.
Yep.
She was tiny and wore a leather jumpsuit, and she played rock and roll. And really I mean like good. Real rock and roll, like not Shadow.
Yep. There's no Joan Jett without Pinky Leather Tuscadero.
She was awesome. Well, there was because she was still in the Runaways. So maybe there was no Leather Tuscadero without Joan Jett.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyways, in a private room with some Dixie cups for champagne, he puts on some smoky blues music. Which turns out to be performed by the punk rock band Shadow.
Our punk rock band is a bluesy slow jam.
Back at a Hollywood Hotline, while the very punk rock crowd lazily slam dances.
They do, I swear to God, nobody in this scene knows what to do with themselves. They all look like they're having a seizure. Everyone is just sort of like waving back and forth like big shoots of grain. They're just
right. They're coming. They're coming down.
Lazily moving.
They're coming down. They got to go out and call their guy to get another 8-ball. It's a whole fucking thing. They're just so
they're just like, well, no, are we supposed to dance? And they're like, no, it's a blues song. They're like, but you said they're a punk band. And everyone's just kind of like waltzing a little bit. Yeah. It's very, very strange.
Yeah. Lee Ving from Fear was a big blues guy, though.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And I'll tell you what. Not a good blues singer.
Not a good blues singer. He
Great singer for Fear.
Oh yeah, he plays a blues singer on an episode of Who's the Boss.
He sure does.
Yep, makes eyes.
I love Lee Ving's acting career.
It's a pretty
because it was always in the places you least expect to find him.
Yep. Goddamn. Goddamn it, he was everywhere. So
he was everywhere, but for a very short time, and that's for a reason.
Yeah, he really leaves an impression though. So. Backstage, the police show up, and they've been called because of Evil's call to Blaze, and I gotta say, it's nice for a movie to give us an accurate portrayal of the police for once.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't give a shit.
These guys suck.
So bad. You see, these punks are the people who enable them to create a problem, and then they complain about it?
I mean, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
that sounds like a talking point I've heard not that long ago.
Yeah, I know. Hey, this wouldn't be happening if you didn't dress like that. This wouldn't be happening if you didn't have drag queens performing. Yeah.
And then he says, her manager says, this show is very important to her. And I thought, what show? What is this?
It's Hollywood Hotline. It's the biggest.
I don't know what that means.
It's the biggest rock show. Yeah. I've read.
Why is it at a fucking mid-tier hotel chain?
Apparently, the biggest rock show in the world is shot at the Holiday Inn and on Ventura somewhere. Yeah. So the 80s were a particularly conservative period, but on top of that, canon were arch conservative, and this sort of vein of otherness runs through all of their movies, like all of them.
But it's always a very vague, kind of nebulous otherness. It's like you're either a kind of middle class white man or a working class white man,
or you're
everybody else.
Yeah, or you're a member of a giggling psychotic gang that wears a lot of face makeup, and if the bad guys in like all of their movies from like 1980 to 1987 all wear face paint and like leather with like chains jangling, and they're just accosting people on the street, shaking them down.
And at least one of them talks like one of the weasels from Roger Rabbit. Yeah, see, why can't we take her purse, boss? Yeah. Like that kind of thing. God, I'm good at that.
Yeah, I know. See, this is why we got to do Death with Shri, so you could do The Giggler.
Oh, God, that movie. I don't think I can.
So yeah, but we're still really early in the Golan Globus period of canon, and you're already seeing it.
Like, I just remember when, I think probably in the early 2000s, it's like people were like, oh, the 80s were just so great. And it's like, God, no, man, they fucking sucked. The 90s weren't so hot either. Like, we get marginally better with each decade, but not that much.
Given if somebody was like, would you like to take this time machine back to 1985 or 1995? I'd go back to 1995 because at least we get the X-Files.
Yeah, at least I know where to go. At least I remember how to get places.
Yeah, I can still drive. So with the cops gone, Blaze calls back to her dressing room to try and talk to Derek. She's looking for Yvonne, who is supposed to be at the show, but you see, she can't be there because she's dead. Mm-hmm. Now, Derek
has something very important he wants to tell her. She doesn't care because she's Blaze, and this is a very important rock show.
Yeah, and he is vamping like a crazy person.
I got to give it to this guy because he's 17 years old when they made this. Also, he obviously his most memorable performance is Killer Clowns, and that is a good 7 years later. He looks exactly the same.
Yep. So also he downs a huge handful of like big red pills.
Yeah, they look like jelly beans.
Yeah, they do. They look delicious. So back at the hospital,
Evil is jelly beans.
I had some.
Like candy.
go so well right now. Listening to me chew into my microphone. So back at the hospital, Evil is making out with Taffy the nurse, and as midnight hits in New York City, Evil raises a knife, stabs the shit out of Taffy the nurse as the ball drops. Yeah. So
the 80s had a real thing for people fucking in hospitals.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah,
if ever there was a place where people had a job to do,
it was
it's a hospital.
The sexy nurse thing is a real puzzler.
Because I'm thinking Halloween 2. I'm thinking Friday. Is it 3 or 4?
Ooh, I don't know.
5 maybe. I think it's 5.
Yeah. But I think of nurses, and I think of like women who've been handling like bodily fluids all day.
Yeah. That is the last place you want to fuck anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe not the last place, but it's one of them.
It's one of them. It's up there. Like the dump would be another place. You don't want to fuck somebody. But
to each their own. I don't want to kink shame.
No kink shaming. You want to fuck at the dump.
If you're into fucking at the dump, get out there and get it.
So back at Hollywood,
God bless you.
you dump fuckers. So back at
this is going great.
That one's going on the merch. So back at Hollywood Hotline, there's a new band.
I've been working on a t-shirt design. You know what's going to say on the back? You dump fuckers.
Oh no. Oh no. So now back at Hollywood Hotline, there's a new band on stage, you see. They're decidedly more punk rock than Shadow.
Yeah, they're a little bit better.
A little bit better. Evil calls back to tell Blaze about killing Taffy, and he plays back the recording of him killing her, and then her body is found by one of the other nurses. But her shoe is found first. This is a detail that's going to come back a little bit later. So, we're still really early in the slasher golden age, but this movie takes a really, really weird approach to the slasher convention of a masked killer. So we talked about this earlier. Evil's going to wear a mask eventually, but he starts...
For no reason.
For no reason. And a lot of this.
Because he's going to wear a mask at the very end.
Yeah. So the real mystery about him is his identity, which will be the carrot on the stick for the rest of the movie.
Which it's not a mystery because they never set it up.
No, well, sort of, just with a little offhand remark that pays off a little later on. But in the end, it still doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter at all. But still, at the same time, I can't think of another slasher movie that does this.
But it does what?
That does the, I'm going to go maskless, and then I'm going to put a mask on at the end.
It does seem an odd choice.
Yeah. So back at the luxurious Holiday Inn, Derek is going crazy in his mother's dressing room. And he has the switchblade, you see.
In the strangest way.
Yeah. He uses the knife to cut up one of her stockings. He pulls it over his face.
But it clearly does not fit over his head very well.
He struggles to get it on.
Because he has to cut it a little bit in order to get it on his head. You can tell that like he's really struggling.
Yeah. And he's monologuing about how his mom thinks he has a mental disorder. She might be right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So back down at the show,
and then he jams a big pin through his ear.
Yeah, like is he? I don't know, trying to dress up like her or something like that. Like it's just him being crazy.
My understanding is that all the script really said was like basically like Derek goes crazy, and so he was like, okay, I guess I'll do this. And you know what? For a 17-year-old, good on you, buddy.
Hell of a job.
You're selling something. I'm not sure if it's crazy, but it's something.
No. So back down at the show. Shadow is on stage playing a heavy metal song while Pinky Tuscadero dances all sexy with him.
Oh, I didn't like this part because, again, it's just like, this feels like someone's mom. Yeah. I mean, I guess it is, but it just looks like it too.
Yeah, yeah. Up in the dress.
She's supposed to be like, you're supposed to get like the kind of like Alita Ford, like hot, young, sexy, big hair, short skirts, whatever the 80s thought was sexy. That's what you're supposed to get. That is not what she's giving, though.
No.
She's giving like middle-aged woman who's not super comfortable in heels anymore. The skirt is just like, this just is not cool.
She's like 2 Long Island iced teas in Long Island.
It is. It's like I went to see Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks over the summer. It was that. It was all that. That was the whole audience. It's just like, you haven't been out of your house in 8 months. You have 4 kids at home. This is your one night to cut loose. So you put on something that you haven't worn in a couple of years. It still fits, but just barely. That's this. That's Blaze.
That's Blaze in a nutshell. Elsewhere in the city, Evil is prepping a crappy fake mustache.
Oh man, it is like the cop at the end of Sleepaway Camp.
It is the most ridiculous mustache, aside from the Sleepaway Camp mustache. The police, meanwhile, inform Blaze that Evil wasn't lying and that they found the nurse, and they come to the conclusion, or rather, she comes to the conclusion that Evil also killed Yvonne. He did.
But they don't really know. Like, I mean, I guess if you're like, well, here's a guy who's taunting you, it's a safe assumption that he probably killed your friend. But like, she's sort of unduly fearful of him throughout the whole movie. It's like, he's just calling you on the phone. He's killing these other ladies. Maybe they should be afraid.
Yeah, they come to a weird conclusion about him a little later on that it's like, man, you guys are reaching to connect the dots here. But Evil is now in a leisure suit and fake mustache, and he shows up to a bar where white people are dancing.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Now, being a serious man of leisure, he smokes a tiny cigarillo, and then he catches the eye of a lone lady at the bar and impresses her with his watch.
And I actually have a note that says, being a young single woman in the 80s seems like an absolute fucking minefield of like obnoxious, fragile men.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is Larry from Three's Company.
The Regal
just
Beagle.
Fucking, like, dancing up on you like, hey, lady. Like, God, just want to have a fucking drink.
Yeah, he says it seems the more expensive they are, the quicker they go out of whack. Which made me think. Sometimes things that are expensive are worse. So back at the show, the cops theorize that evil is going to kill someone every time the clock strikes midnight in a new time
Now,
zone.
wouldn't that imply that he's only going to kill, 3 people? 4 people?
Yeah.
How many times was that there? 4? 3?
Well, let's see. So there's Eastern, there's Central, there's Mountain, and
That's 4.
And there's Pacific.
Now, he kills way more than that.
He kills Yvonne.
He kills 8 people.
Taffy the nurse. Does he?
Yep.
Wow.
So why set up this whole thing from the very beginning when you have already undermined your fucking premise? Why set it up at all?
I know.
Why not just be like, he's killing and calling in? Like, just do that.
Yeah, you know what it is it seems like the writers and the producers were really kind of struggling with they were really, really hung up on the one detail of the successful slasher movies that came before, and it's the holidays. It's the holiday theme.
Yeah.
And so they were like, shit, we got to tie this back to the holiday. And it's like, no, you fucking don't.
You just do what fucking My Bloody Valentine does. You make a movie and then you retroactively name it something that's holiday themed.
Yeah. No, you don't have to fucking do that. But so at the white people bar, Evil continues to woo this lady. You see, he's got to go. He just dropped in for a drink and has to head over to a party.
Yeah, big party
at Eric Estrada's house.
Mm-hmm.
You impressed there? So,
and then he says it's a command performance. A command performance by who? By Eric Estrada?
Eric Estrada.
For you? Or for you to Eric Estrada? Like, why would he care?
You know what he's doing is he's inviting all these people over, and he's just going to perform soliloquies from Shakespeare, and everybody who's invited has to go, and they have to watch him do these monologues.
Yeah, this is like when your one friend with the kind of long hair shows up at the party and takes out his acoustic guitar to play you some white blues.
Yeah, spinning through the ages. So
that one is a strong bad reference. That's not mine. So if it didn't land, blame them.
Yeah. So at Hollywood Hotline, the other band, who we learn is named Made in Japan, plays a song called Dumb Blondes. And they're like a Buzzcocks, Dickies kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like Nick Lowe, but without any of the talent or charm.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the riff on this song is almost identical to the Dickies version of Silent Night. It's a little suspicious.
Yeah, they're very Buzzcocks.
Yeah. So outside the white,
the Jam, but like with more energy. I
guess. Little bit. I don't know how much more energy than the Jam you get. Outside the white people bar, Evil's lady pickup demonstrates a little bit of caution and awareness that we're not used to seeing in a slasher movie. She brings along a friend because she's about to fuck off with a total stranger. Now, they're both about to die, but it's an A for effort from me. Now, back at the show, Blaze
and Redison.
Yeah, at the Howard Johnson, Blaze and the cop examine the recording to see if she recognizes anything about him.
He says, I can't tell. He's apparently using some kind of voice processor. Yeah, it's a kazoo.
Now, a producer gives her an out as they're getting closer to midnight in Chicago. She refuses to sit this one out because this is what the killer wants, which is a bit presumptuous, if you ask me.
And look, this is a very big concert.
Biggest of the year.
This is the big rock and roll concert.
Yeah, all the youngsters and the whippersnappers have been waiting all year for this.
They have, and you know they're sniffing glue.
Yeah,
and they're drinking Manischewitz wine in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. And they're
doing kid stuff.
They're terrorizing the neighbors. They're stepping on the grass when they shouldn't be. I know.
It just feels, oh man.
So on the way to Eric Estrada's party, the girl,
I love this part though.
I know, it's fucking the best. The girl he picked up is being really yappy, and she has the worst voice that I've ever heard.
Yeah, my note says, I kind of want to kill this woman too.
Her voice is like nails in my ears.
You know what she reminds me of? Did you ever see Salem's Lot, the original TV movie?
Yeah.
She reminds me of Bonnie Sawyer, the woman. I can't remember her name. I think she was on a TV show. She's blonde hair. She might actually be her for all I know. She looks a lot like her. She's like that, where she's just like kind of awkward and just talks nonstop.
She was one of the girlfriends from Perfect Strangers. Is the woman
yes.
that? Yes, yeah.
She was Balky's girlfriend on Perfect Strangers.
I cannot remember the woman's name. I actually thought that this was that actress. It's not. So Evil is getting impatient because he needs to reach his destination by 10 in order to kill these girls.
And she says, "Hey, well, at least Lisa got rid of her nervous diarrhea
with transcendental meditation." Which is like the perfect time capsule moment for 1980. Yep, it cured her of her nail biting and her friend's nervous diarrhea.
This whole movie has a very like distinctly made for TV feeling.
It does. I have
like
that.
It is very much of the time.
There's a little bit of nudity. There's a little bit of blood. If it wasn't for those things, it would definitely feel like a Monday night movie kind of thing. So. They make a quick pit stop now, and thus begins the best scene in the entire movie. Maybe one of my favorite kill scenes in a slasher movie ever. So,
because it is a thing that would absolutely never happen.
No. So Evil tells the yappy girl's friend to go into a store, buy some champagne. And while she's gone, he proposes that he and she smoke some weed and produces a gigantic bag of weed, inviting her to smell it. And now when she leans in, he hits record on his radio and slips the bag over her head, suffocating her with the bag of weed. And the weed is like jostling around and like it's in her face and shit. It's like it's like
incredibly awkward.
It is like a slasher movie that Cheech and Chong made.
And also the whole premise of this, like killing at precisely midnight, like this is all very specific. Like he gets real antsy in the car, and that's why he's like, all right, I got to improvise. I'll send the one lady into the thing, and then I'll kill her with the bag of weed, I guess. But it's like, it's a very short window.
Yeah. So I've also got a question of my own. What's the deal with the mustache?
I guess so. In case people at the bar maybe saw them leave together,
because he turns out to be like a master of disguise.
Yeah, he does.
But like the disguises just don't play a role in anything.
Nothing in this movie plays a role. There is no continuity in this. There's no cohesion in the story.
This is definitely hey, shut up and watch the movie.
Yeah, just look. We had 3 weeks and $600,000. The guy who wrote this is 65 years old. We don't have time.
If he doesn't leave now, he's not going to get the fucking discount at Denny's. It's just a whole thing. We got to get finished here. So,
because it only gets more absurd from here.
When her friend emerges from the store, she finds Evil's car gone. But behind the store, she finds Yappy Girl's shoe. This is turning into a Tarantino movie. And the second time a body is discovered by first finding a shoe. When she looks into a nearby dumpster, she finds Evil, mustache and all, waiting there to ambush her.
And it is such a weird, because he is if you watch the trailer, it's in the trailer, because it is sort of a weirdly unnerving moment. He's lighting up his face with a lighter, and it's all you can see is sort of like his face aglow and nothing else. Yeah. And he has this weird grin on his face. It's just so fucking strange.
It does not look like the guy that we've been seeing this whole movie.
Looks like Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And then he kills her and puts her in the dumpster.
Kills her. And so then he calls the cops and tells them where he can find the body. So the cops find blood at the scene, and they also find a jump scare cat. And a little bit more searching turns up Yappy Girl in a playground, dangling from the swing set with the bag of weed still over her head.
Yeah. No dignity for her.
No. And her friend is dead on a nearby slide. And the way that she slides into frame is fucking great. So Evil has now changed his costume. He's dressed like a priest next. For some reason. Why not? And he runs into some bikers who flip him off. And now a little ways up the road, he rear ends the bikers while not paying attention because he keeps looking at a picture of a nun in the passenger seat.
Yeah, this is a real Pee-wee's Big Adventure moment.
Is it a detail that I just didn't notice? Like, it seems like it's pointing to something. But it never pays off.
I think they're just trying to give it a distraction.
I guess.
But like, why does it have to be a nun?
I know.
Why can't it be the fact that you're surrounded by angry bikers?
Yeah. So he flees and they give chase. He tries to lose them at a drive-in movie. So the movie trailer running at the drive-in says that it's a movie called Blood Feast. It is not.
But it is not.
It is not. It is actually the giallo, The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, which was
fucking rules.
Oh my God, Mamma Mia! That's what I call that's what I call a convoluted giallo right there. But it's great.
Also one of my favorite soundtracks.
Yep. It was. Here's the thing. It was released here in the States as Blood Feast.
Really?
Yes, it was, and it was released as a double feature with another movie called Blood Bath.
I was going to say that title doesn't make any sense, but you know what? Neither does The Red Queen Kill 7 Times.
No.
Neither does any title that has ever been applied to a giallo.
No. So, at the drive-in, we get a little cheap skin as the bikers search for evil. Some dude is feeling up a girl in his car while she smokes some weed.
So here's where you get a real, like a distinctly 80s vibe in this movie. The tone of this thing is all over the place throughout the whole thing, but you get this, like, this could have gone either way. It could have gone boring slasher, which it kind of is, or goofy comedy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, he is now, the hunter has become the prey, if you will, where he's like desperately trying to get something done by a certain time. He has to kill these people by a certain deadline, and just wacky shit just keeps falling in his way.
Oh yeah,
all these hurdles, and it's just like, this could have very easily been a comedy. And you know what? It probably would have been a pretty decent comedy.
It's wacky hijinks when our serial killer bumps into some bikers.
But it also, I think, is indicative of what is happening in slashers in general, because that early phase, they're real brutal movies. Like, even if you go sort of down, you got your top tier ones. The kind of lower you go, the sleazier and grimier and grindhouseier they get.
Yeah.
But as you get into they start to inject humor, the more I think production companies and studios start to realize, like, oh, these are like kids and teenagers who are going to these movies, and they're probably all stoned or hopped upon goofballs or whatever it is they're doing. And so they like start to inject weird humor into shit. And you can kind of see that in this. Like, you can see that they're really pitching to a young audience. Now, I would say if you want to pitch a movie to a young audience, maybe get someone a little bit younger to write it.
I know. Yeah. But also, just like...
So it doesn't feel like my mom wrote a horror movie. and then someone else's mom starred in it.
Oh, no. But also, just like we covered in our Blood Rage episode, it seems like drive-ins were places where people just went to fucking public.
Yeah, it was just mayhem.
Yeah, it's just this is the impression.
Like, you're either there to have sex or to murder a priest.
So when the bikers get close, Evil abandons his car and leaves on foot. But on his way out, one of the bikers confronts him. Evil tells him, "I'm a man of God, not a man of violence." And then
now, look, I must say, for a compulsive serial killer, he sure does have a lot of whimsical costumes.
Yeah, he got costumes. He's got really. He thinks on his feet. He's got one-liners.
Because he is giving Father Guido Sarducci at this point.
Yeah, but also for a guy who's not a man of violence, he then stabs him to death.
Yep.
So back to the couple in the car, Evil pulls the dude out of the back seat, demands to know where the keys are, and the guy talks like Bob Goldthwait in the 80s. It's like, hey, they're like in the front seat. So Evil then takes off with the topless girl in the backseat.
That's a real terrible Bob Goldthwait.
I fucking suck it. I can't do it. You do it.
I can't do that one.
Okay.
Hey, remember that kid from You Can't Do That on Television? And he was like the voice, the man of 1,001 voices.
So the
only voice he ever did was Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah.
Man, the 80s. It's like a real hot time.
Comedy gold mine. Though that is a fucking funny joke. So we're now 5 minutes from midnight in the mountain time zone. Evil gets
for someone who's on a fucking tight schedule, he's real blasé about just kind of hanging out.
Evil gets ready to kill his next one when a couple of drunks wander into the street in front of his car, and the girl seizes the opportunity to run. And Evil chases her with his radio slung over his shoulder. And then he catches up to her at some sort of sports park. And she's hidden under an outbuilding of some sort. But some cops catch up to him, forcing him to flee, missing his opportunity to kill. Now, that scene with the girl in the backseat is tonally out of step with the rest of the movie. This is kind of a light,
because
silly
feels
movie.
Very sleazy.
And it's extremely sleazy and menacing and wicked nasty. And she says,
like, it feels more like it belongs in like Maniac than it does this.
Oh yeah, it's a very, very upsetting scene. Now back at the show,
and I'll tell you though, one of the things that, because lately, I think it's like the older I get, the more the kind of mingling of sex and violence upsets me.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's unfortunately a very big component of these movies, but like I feel like lately I've just been watching, because I've been watching a lot of Grindhouse movies lately, and it's just like I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that kind of like sadism. And it feels really out of whack in this movie, because it's like that's not the tone of this movie at all.
No, this movie is really quite silly.
Yeah.
So back at the show, the cop tries to address the crowd who hate him. It's how
someone says, shut up, enough already. It's like, dude, he said one thing.
Yeah, it's how
all he said was attention.
It's how punks are, you see. They just hate law and order.
Yeah. We just want to sniff more glue and lazily roll around on the floor.
Slam damps like a bunch of savages. They bring in a psychologist to add a little profile about the killer. They see he's compelled.
This guy's monologue feels like beat for beat exactly what he did in his audition.
Yeah, oh my God. So he is compelled to kill on the hour, you see. And there's some flimsy reason he's going to kill Blaze. The psychologist is fucking nuts. He talks like Joe Friday through his teeth. And he's doing,
which again is very 80s.
Yeah, and he's doing a lot of eyebrow acting.
But they keep kind of positioning Blaze as though she's the ultimate victim in all this. It's like, bitch, he has killed 7 people. You're not the victim.
Total randos. And they keep going like, yeah, this is the second time where she's like, or anybody is like, oh, they're coming for her. It's like, what makes you think that?
Yeah. And she has experienced the least of the trauma. This is the complaint of like a lot of people with the Halloween franchise, where like Jamie Lee Curtis is just progressively like, he's coming after me. And it's like, well, why do you think that he's coming after you? He was just killing random people the first time around. You just happened to be in the way.
Yeah.
Someone's a little self-important, I think. Blaze.
Yeah, as they're explaining this, Derek is lurking in the background, still wearing the stocking over his head, wearing some of those punk rock sunglasses.
Oh, the psychologist also says he's mutilated the breasts of his victims. That's a common fixation of a psychopathic killer who has a mother fixation. That's some super 80s shit right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to say they were entirely wrong, because they're not, but...
It's all Freudian. So... Evil now arrives at the luxurious Holiday Inn.
Still dressed like Guido Sarducci.
Yeah, he arrives in time to see the cops hassling a guy.
Who, by the way, still does the Guido Sarducci bit.
I know.
And I say, thank God for that.
I know. Well, you want to know who else is doing their thing? Yakov Smirnov.
Man, that's great.
Yeah, and he's still booking them like crazy out in Branson, Missouri.
Branson. They love the arts.
I know.
Also, totally dry town, by the way.
I know. I've got a friend.
If you want me to go see Yakov Smirnov, I am not doing it sober.
No, I've got a friend who has been to Branson multiple times.
Why?
Because it's a long story.
I mean, no offense to anyone in Missouri. I don't think we have any listeners in Missouri, but if we do, no offense.
No, I'd go to Bronson, Missouri.
I feel like if data is any indication, most of our listeners are in New York and California. You know, where the cool kids are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So he's they're hassling a guy who arrived to the show late, and they're no longer admitting anybody. Dude just hanging out there in chaps. At least he wore jeans under him. So he sneaks around back, finds
very
the back
punk rock of him.
Finds the back door guarded by 2 cops. And when one of them walks away, he lures the other cop over to where he is, and he smacks him with a brick.
Yeah, he says, I think I found a drunk. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just yell, hey, help? Like, why is that the thing he says? I feel like now I'm just splitting hairs. Just watch the goddamn movie.
Yeah. So inside we get another song by Made in Japan. It's not very good. Also, not very punk.
And I believe Blaze does a Japanese impression.
Yeah, I can't remember what she says, but fuck.
It is offensive.
Yeah. So outside, Evil, master of disguise, has the cop's uniform on, uses it to get into the hotel. Now, once inside, he locates a trunk of costuming that he left there just for this occasion. And
I told you. This is a guy, he's got a real tight schedule, but he's got time for costumes, and I appreciate that. That's my kind of killer.
I know. He really planned his time out. He put all the shit in the place where he needed it to be. So, yeah. Now, there's some more drama.
Because we're getting to the why of all of this, and it is real disappointing.
Yeah, so there's some drama in Blaze's dressing room having to do with Derek. He runs off.
Because all of a sudden she cares about her son.
And moments later, a man wearing a silly mask carrying a switchblade enters the room. Then there's a bit of menace. First, it looks like he's going to stab her. Then he motions like he's going to strangle her. But then she turns around frightened and he takes the mask off. It's Evil, and he's smiling. This was all some kind of goof. It turns out Evil is really Richard, her husband.
Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yep. So
why bother at all?
They thought they were being clever.
So I have a theory about this, though. I think that they had this mask probably, and it turned out this mask was probably very similar to other masks in other movies. Because it looks a little bit like, it looks exactly like the thing from Deep Red, but it looks a little bit like the mask, one of the masks in Terror Train.
Yes, it does. Actually, that's the scene in the dumpster when he does the lighter thing. Mm-hmm. I always think he looks like the fucking mask the killer wears in Terror Train. Yeah.
And I wonder if they had planned for him to wear a mask all along. They were like, fuck it. We don't have time to come up with anything else. Let's just do it. Because the reveal that it's her husband. It's very wait, she has a husband?
Yeah.
We never see them together.
No, we
they
hear
only
about
mention him one time.
Yeah, they mention him, and she seems like, he's probably coked up and drunk, so she doesn't like him much either. But yeah, also the whole time,
based on his behavior this evening, I don't think I like him either.
No. He reminds me of Jeffrey Combs a bit, and he looks like him.
Yes,
and he definitely talks like him.
Yes, because Jeffrey Combs plays the same character in every movie.
Yeah.
And however great they are, it's the same fucking character in every movie.
Yeah, Jeffrey, don't stop doing it. You're great.
Yeah, no, just keep being you, because it works great every time.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's such a wet fart of a reveal. It's like what?
Yeah.
This is not, it can't be a surprise. It can't be the big twist at the end if I don't know who this guy is to begin with. It's a big reveal if I'd seen him before and then he takes the mask off and it's her husband.
I disagree. I think that you can definitely do that. You can set up this mystery, and then in the fucking third act,
you can't treat it like it's a reveal. You could let it be the mystery. That's fine. But just have him walk into the fucking room. But this big take the mask off reveal, it doesn't fucking matter because we didn't know it was her husband.
Yeah. But
so anyway, just let him walk into the room.
I know
it's the same thing.
The mask part is a bit much, but I feel like that is a perfectly valid thing. Is a detail of the movie that I've never really seen elsewhere, where they're just like, "Who is this killer?" and then they reveal.
It seems like a happy accident to me.
So then they use this scene to remind us all what has happened in case you forgot it, because this movie's not even 90 minutes long, and you apparently need a little bit of a reminder. And she explains to Evil what he's done while he plays stupid, and then he leaves to carry out the rest of his evil plan. And now the cop gets a call that fills him in on what happened at the drive-in. So now everybody is looking for Evil Richard. But Evil Richard has done some electrical magic stuff to the elevator. So when Blaze...
Because the elevator, the mechanics of the elevator, it's just down in the lobby for everybody.
Yeah. So when Blaze and one of the cops get in, he does something to it to make it fall out of control. And then he eventually stops it at whatever floor he's at, which sort of knocks out the cop. And then he sits down next to Blaze.
Yeah, this whole part is very confusing.
Yeah,
and then we get to the end where he explains his motive, and it's like, oh, fucking barf.
He plays her the recording of him killing Taffy the nurse, and then he monologues. And his whole thing is that he hates women, surprise, and the only victims in this movie are women.
You know what's funny about this, though, is slashers throughout the 80s, they are constantly being accused of being misogynistic, and justifiably, because most of them are very misogynistic. This one actually isn't. Until you get to the end, and then it's like, wait, that's your reason?
Yeah.
That is the laziest shit I've ever heard. It's like, I don't know. He hates women, I guess?
It feels very on brand for canon.
Yeah.
Like from what, and the thing is, I'm giving Canon a little too much credit. Those guys really just paid for the movie and they slapped their logo on it. This is filmmakers, but there is just,
I don't know. I think they were pretty heavy. Like there were a lot of phone calls like, no, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But it's very much like you're turning our son into we never see any, it's the same stupid bullshit. Like you're an overbearing mother, you're a, domineering wife, blah, 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 blah. It's that dumb shit. But we never see any of this. So it's like, I don't, there's a difference when you watch movies, there's a difference between being told that this is an explanation and being told to think so. So this movie is not didactic in any way.
No, they do set this up at the very beginning. It's just done very, very haphazardly and not terribly effectively, so that when this reveal comes around, you go, okay, I guess so.
Well, maybe that speaks to the era in which it's made more than anything else, because I read that as this is a sort of an uninterested, perhaps even disinterested mother, and maybe like a kind of slightly disgruntled wife, but they don't really elaborate on any of these things. She just seems like a woman who's kind of like singularly focused in this moment and doesn't want to be bothered with any family bullshit.
Yeah.
I guess if you are a man in 1980, you could read that as like, oh, she doesn't care about her family and she's, whatever. But like, it doesn't read that way. So to get this dumped on you at the end, it's kind of like, I guess, but not really.
Yeah. That was my reaction exactly, was, oh, okay. So,
I mean, he could have said anything. It wouldn't fucking matter.
No. Evil now chains her up to the bottom.
Because he was supposed to be he had spent time in that psychiatric hospital.
Yes. And yet Nurse Taffy did not recognize him.
Well, because it's actually not a psychiatric hospital, because it's the same fucking hotel that they've been filming everything else in. It is very clearly not a hospital. It is a hotel there.
No, like hours before they had a breakfast, like a brunch buffet set up there. So
I wish I had brunch right now.
Oh, dude, I could go for some fucking pancakes right now. So the plan is to do some more magical electrical stuff to the elevator, because she's chained to the bottom of it. And
again, I don't like that you just access the. Is this the way it is everywhere? I'm not taking an elevator anywhere. I say that like I go a bunch of places.
I'm completely turned around on elevators now. So the thing is, she's gonna fall, die on impact. She's wearing a ridiculous sparkly red jumpsuit now.
Everything she has worn in this movie is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So at the top floor, Blaze sees Yvonne's body in the elevator shaft for some fucking reason. Beads in her hair still clicking away.
Because you got to wonder, has he been carting her body around? Was she in the fucking trunk with all the costumes?
I know. So,
I bet that's why the beads are there too.
Maybe, because
very audible.
It's a big trunk. Now, with Blaze falling quickly and some drunk punks stuck in the elevator, the police finally show up. Now, Evil Richard...
I kind of love the couple in the elevator.
Love them. I love them to death. They're very fucking funny. Evil Richard shoots at the cops, and then the police shoot back, and then all the shooting jacks up the electrical elevator box, causing the elevator to stop falling. And there's a couple of shots where there are like real bullet hits hitting the wall. Like, whoo... Right next to...
Yeah, because she was I think, actually chained to the mechanics of the elevator. Like, I watched a thing and they were like, if anything had fucked up, she could have been torn apart.
That, you know what, her back is to you when they're doing that. That had to be a stunt woman.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope not. I hope it was a dummy. I don't think you should be chaining anyone to the elevator.
Well, you know what?
That seems unwise.
You know what? I love stunt people for the things that they do. I love seeing people do crazy fucking stunts.
You know what you should see? Stunt rock.
Yeah, with sorcerer.
Speaking of sorcery.
So, yeah, now the cops chase Evil Richard to the roof, where he puts the silly mask back on.
And then quotes Shakespeare for no particular reason at all.
I think the mask is supposed to be Richard Nixon.
Okay.
Yeah. But
still, the connection's a jump.
Yeah. So cornered, Evil Richard drops his weapons and then does the "to die, to sleep no more" soliloquy from Hamlet before leaping from the roof. Now, another canon slasher movie, X-Ray, which we talked about earlier, which we're doing in about a month, produced by the same guy as this one, released the following year, has an almost identical ending.
Schizo came out the same. The Schizo is another movie that was produced by the same guy, also a canon movie.
Yep,
came out the same year.
And if you get it on Vinegar Syndrome,
that movie is not good.
If you get the Vinegar Syndrome release of X-Ray, you also get Schizo.
And you should. You should buy things from Vinegar Syndrome. That's not even a paid advertisement. I just like them.
Nope, I love them. Vinegar Syndrome, hit us up. Derek finds his dad dead on the ground and takes the mask off with a crazy look on his face. And the cops, meanwhile, load Blaze into an ambulance. And the driver is revealed to be Derek wearing the mask with the actual driver dead on the floor next to him. We hear a radio broadcast wishing Happy New Year from Hawaii, implying that he killed Blaze.
And you think, are we going to get a sequel? No, because this movie was terrible.
Yep. So now New Year's Evil song plays, roll credits.
Oh, man.
New Year's Evil. Yep.
I'm going to ask the normal question, I guess, but what do you think of this movie today?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I had never seen this one. At a certain point when we would get up to like renting movies, I got really kind of tired of the holiday slasher kind of also rans.
I will say the cover for this, is it one of the ones that is sort of like just imprinted in my brain from the video store?
Yeah, it's like that one and Happy Birthday to Me always really stick out to me. Like they're very compelling, but like something about it, I was just like, I don't want to see another fucking holiday slasher. Like there's a few that are really
because they all came out in the same fucking year.
Yeah, and
Roger Corman felt the same way.
And most of them are just not very good, and this one didn't really draw me in. So until we did this episode, I'd never seen it. My final thoughts on it are, it is not good. It is not a good movie, but it has its charms. It is very silly. It's very funny. It has a really weird take on punk rock and punk rock culture. I had a really good time with it. I would watch it again for sure. Like, I don't think that this is not like Christmas Evil or Silent Night, Deadly Night, where it's like a movie I'm definitely going to be watching for like on a sort of holiday traditional schedule. But I don't know, maybe in the future when there's nothing else to watch, I'll put it on.
Yeah. I probably saw it maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe. And I haven't seen it that many times. I've maybe seen it 2 or 3 times. In some ways, what I like about it is you can tell, and especially if you watch the special features on the Blu-ray, you can tell that they're having fun. And I think that goes a long way, especially when you have a low budget movie.
Yeah.
The energy, if it's right, it can convey something fun. I think there is a lot of misogyny in this. That's a little bit, it's a little insidious, maybe. It is a fucking mess narratively. They introduce this kind of motive and strategy, this kind of his operating procedure at the beginning, but they don't really stick to it. Nobody commits to anything in this movie. It's totally really weird.
The whole like killing on the hour thing is there to sort of give the movie some stakes, to kind of give it a little bit of momentum, but they never commit to it fully, and so it doesn't really go anywhere. If this movie is interesting in any way, it's just that canon movies in particular, the Golden Globus era, have a weird quality to them that feels completely removed from any reality that you're familiar with. Like every one of their movies has a very bizarre internal logic to it. And when it's applied to the slasher movie formula, which is a really simple formula, like it does.
It's very basic. It's and then there were none.
Yeah.
That is the slasher formula is, and then there were none.
It's a body count movie, but they overcomplicate it in ways that are really amusing.
But at the same time, they don't commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they really so convoluted and weird. And by the end, you're like, wait, what?
No, like this is them just trying to make up a little bit of money. Like, well, like they probably had a very cynical approach to it where they were like, fuck it, this is stupid. Anybody can make a fucking horror movie. And
I will say though, because people might be like, well, why you guys have been focused really on canon. Who is the distributor of the movie? Not the production. Well, I guess they were the production company, but it is an exercise in branding, because it is brilliant branding. You know exactly. It's like it's either New World, which is a little bit higher class, Canon, or Vestron, and you can tell them all just by watching them.
Yes, you certainly can.
Like that is a very impressive feat for a distributor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say this is not like, I mean, it's funny because we've been doing this. I ordinarily would not have thought of movies in this way, which is kind of where the method pays off a little bit, is that I would never have thought about it like this, but we've been watching holiday movies. I am so fucking sick of holiday movies.
I am so glad
we can all stop watching the same goddamn movies now.
I am so glad that we are past this, because like we did Elves, and then all of a sudden every fucking other horror podcast in our Instagram feed was doing Elves. Everybody, of course, had to do Silent Night, Deadly Night. Everybody was doing Christmas Evil. Everybody was doing Black Christmas. And I am so fucking holiday horrored out. I'm so glad.
Think that most of them suck.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm just a little burnt out on the motif. I'm so glad that we're moving on because what the fuck are we doing next week?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, we were going to do yet another New Year's Eve horror movie. We were going to do Terror Train, and I thought maybe 2 New Year's Eve horror movies is one too many.
Yeah.
You might argue it's too many. Instead, we're going to be doing Fright Night.
Yes.
Which is a fucking awesome movie.
Yes.
And I believe we have a pretty awesome guest.
We've got
I'm not going to say who it is yet because you never know. But
we got a fucking great guest. I'm so excited about this one.
So in 2 weeks, we will be back with Fright Night. But before that, next Monday on 99-Cent Rental, we watch Polyester, which is my favorite John Waters movie.
Yep. We had a really good time with that one. So be on the lookout. Oh, and yeah, and regarding the whole 99-Cent Rental thing, we're going to keep putting the 90-cent, we're going to keep putting those episodes in this feed until probably the end of the month, and then we'll spin that off over into its own feed just so you're not.
Spoiler, it's the same show.
It's the same show.
We just talk about all their dumb shit.
Yeah, but so definitely subscribe to that one because it's a lot of fun. We got some great movies lined up for that one also. But so 1 week.
And some real highbrow stuff. Well, okay, I can think of at least one highbrow thing. And even that's a bit
of a stretch. But so in 1 week, Polyester on 99-Cent Rental, and in 2 weeks, Fright Night.
Yo.